everybody. End of day
4.
And we are, as you can see, in an old hunting lodge. This is actually Greig Lodge, which is a fantastic Catholic house of prayer and community.
Yeah.
But guys, I mean, today, tough day of hiking.
Yeah, tough day. I think physically it was the hardest day so far because rather than meandering roads, we went up a mountain. And but although it was the most physically exhausting, it was actually, in a way, your heart just came alive and it just felt invigorating. Being able to get off the beaten track a little bit more, feel out in the wild, and really start to get that rhythm of pilgrimage, which, although I'm starting to get my head around it, there's still questions about it. I've been chatting to Charlie today of how do you, in a way, it kind of feels passive. In a way, you know, it's not like you're necessarily in a church service or doing something to actively seek God. You're kind of going for a walk and saying, God, here I am, have your way, and not doing much else. And sometimes it can just feel like I'm going for a walk. So could you unpack a little bit about what is pilgrimage? What is the significance of pilgrimage?
I love that it's feeling underwhelming. I think we need to underwhelm people a lot more. My wife says I regularly underwhelm people.
How kind.
It's a gift, really.
But you know, what if God... Isn't it interesting that in charismatic spirituality, which I love, we spend our lives trying to reach something. It's almost like this God is just always slightly out of reach. We're always like, can I pull him down? And what if God is the most natural and normal thing in life, and that it's sin and distraction and busyness that stops us not from finding him, but from finding that we have already been found by him. In other words, what if we have a spirituality that is about relaxing into God's presence and finding him not just in the bright lights and the, you know, the hyped emotion, but actually finding him in normality. And so, I mean, back to the pilgrimage thing, you know, there's going to be a Lectio 365 actually on the spirituality of walking, but my definition of pilgrimage is that it's simply this: a journey with God in search of God.
That's awesome.
So there's a sense in which you've already found everything you're going to find with God, and yet there's this hunger in you to know him more in search of God.
I love that. And it's that beautiful thing, isn't it, of the pilgrimage we're on for these 3 weeks. It's actually what we're doing on this earth, the entirety of time. And this intense time helps us to bring it into the normality of the day-to-day. Because I'm going to walk every day, right? It could just be from my bedroom to the kitchen, but in that walking, there's a reminder of, I remember walking and encountering God in it, so why not here? Why not in my kitchen? Why not today? Not just around this lock or, but why not in the everyday spaces and places that I'm walking with Jesus? And there's something really beautiful about that. I love that. So we're here at Greig Lodge, which is a Catholic house of prayer. And as you guys know, I've been on this journey of exploring a lot of different Christian traditions. I grew up, I've been part of a Pentecostal, charismatic, free church for a long time. And so pilgrimage always seemed very Catholic to me. And we're here in a Catholic house of prayer. So I guess I wanted to ask you, is it a Catholic tradition that we can learn from? What is the root of pilgrimage?
It's not Catholic, Protestant, or anything else. It's just biblical. And I think one of our big discoveries has been that it's also not just an optional extra. Pilgrimage is intrinsic to our faith. So let me explain. We'll start with the Old Testament and we do the New Testament. Old Testament, the people of God are a pilgrim people. They are wandering in the wilderness. You know, there's that sense of being dislocated. And then there are these three great pilgrimages. Once they get a city, they get a homeland. These continuous pilgrim people, because 3 times a year they travel to Jerusalem. Jesus took part in that. So remember, the one insight we get into his childhood is when he's left behind at the temple, and that's because his whole family have gone to Jerusalem. On one of the pilgrimages. So this was part of his culture just as much as maybe like we might talk about family holidays we've been on as kids. And then some people say, well, that's fine, but that's just Old Testament stuff. We're now New Testament. But here's the really interesting thing. God chose to honour the pilgrimages of the Old Testament and the feasts attached to them and bring them right into the inauguration of the New Covenant, because, first of all, Jesus didn't just die on some random Friday. He died on the Passover. And that was so, as you know, significant, because the Passover was the holy meal, remembering the Exodus, when they went out into the wilderness, and the firstborn sons, were saved, whilst the Egyptian firstborn sons killed. So Jesus, the firstborn son, becomes the sacrificial son of Pharaoh. It's unbelievably significant. So Jesus, when he inaugurated communion, was reenacting the Passover and saying, this is the very foundation of the church. And then, of course, he becomes the Paschal lamb, the scapegoat on the cross. And then you might say, well, okay, fine. That's a nice bit of metaphor. But get this. The next great event, the birth of the church in a 24/7 prayer room, comes at another pilgrimage, the next pilgrimage after the Passover, which is Pentecost. Pentecost is an Old Testament festival. And so the reason that when the Spirit came, Peter preaches the gospel, and they speak in all these different languages, why is it so multicultural? Because Jews have come from all over the Roman Empire to Jerusalem as pilgrims for the festival. So it's not exaggeration to say the church was born amongst 3,000 pilgrims who were on a journey with God. That's why they'd come in search of God. Boy, did they find him! They got baptized. They started the church, and then we can fast forward. The church starts to get a bit settled, and there's persecution. There's diaspora. They're forced out as pilgrims, and then we go right the way for one of the best-selling books of all time, Pilgrim's Progress, John Bunyan. You understanding pilgrimage as a metaphor. Chaucer, the Pilgrim's Tale, the Pilgrim Fathers who went and founded America, and so on and so forth. So pilgrimage is not, it isn't secondary, it's essential, it's at the heart of our faith. And then the final observation is, in our own journey in 24/7 prayer, we've made this discovery over the last quarter of a century that the Holy Spirit can fill places as well as people. And in a way, every time you go to a 24/7 prayer room, it's a mini pilgrimage. Like you're cycling across town at midnight thinking, why am I doing this? You're on a journey with God, in search of God. So this is an important bit of theology, really. Speaking of which, the Psalms. Well, first of all, let's just say this. Rich, the song that you did yesterday on our vlog, I'm trying to learn to like that word. We've had overwhelming positive feedback, haven't we?
We really have.
And we're slightly appalled that you are able to just knock out such a brilliant song in a day like that. And as we've been talking about the fact that pilgrimage was such a part of the Old Testament, that they had specific psalms that they would recite and sing on pilgrimage, and we called those psalms either psalms of ascent, because they were ascending towards the hill of the Lord, Jerusalem, just as we will be crossing the sands to Lindisfarne, or they're sometimes called the Pilgrim Psalms. And you just casually said, I've written a pilgrim psalm, so we thought we'd finish tonight if that's all right.
Yeah.
With you playing it. What's it called?
Thank you. It's called Our Way and Destination.
Awesome. A Pilgrim Psalm.
You are Jacob's stairway to heaven. When our Babel towers fall down, and all the cosmos can't hold your presence, yet you make yourself easily found. What other God is so high and lowly to fill a cradle here in the dirt, carry a cross up Calvary's mountain, and redeem every creature on earth? 'Cause where you are, there's paradise, heaven and earth in your complexion, pillars of fire burn within your eyes, oh Jesus, you're our way and destination. You're our way and destination. You're the one who guides our steps, and the one in whom we rest. You're our way and destination. You alone hold the keys into Eden, and you're that garden we long to return. And when our efforts leave us still wanting, you bore the weight we could never endure. What other God is so high and lowly to make an execution his throne, bury the seed of our sin and rebellion, and raise us into your life and your love? 'Cause where you are, there's paradise, heaven and earth in your complexion, pillars of fire burn within your eyes. You are our way and destination. 'Cause where you are, there's paradise, heaven and earth in your complexion, pillars of fire burn within your eyes, oh Jesus, you're our way and destination. You're our way and destination. You're the one who guides our steps, and the one in whom we rest. You're our way and destination. You're the one who guides our steps, and the one at whom we rest. You're our way and destination.
Wow, beautiful. Woo! Love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. Incredible. A Pilgrim song.
Thanks, Pete.